Have a listen to this. Have a listen to this.
Interest rates are higher. I know people don't like that, but you should be welcoming the stronger economy.
And maybe a deal has a point about the machinery of capitalism being oiled with the blood of the worker.
The United States is a country that has always paid all of its bills.
Lannister always pays his debts.
Don't let the bastards get you.
Hello and welcome back to Comedian versus Economist. We are back after a couple of weeks off. My name's Adam and we're joined as always by my little older brother and real life economist, Thomas. Hi, Thomas.
Yeah, g'day, Adam. I'm the one you didn't see on TV over the weekend.
I didn't know you subscribed to my OnlyFans, Thomas. Thank you for tuning in. No, I was on the ABC on Auntie talking all things Track My Brown and ending gambling ads, one interview at a time. So yeah, thanks if you saw that. If you haven't, go and have a look.
I think good work.
I think the video is up till mid-May or something. So check it out. Massive show coming up, Thomas. As always, we're looking at charts. If you want to follow along, you'll find them on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube if you're watching on YouTube at CVE Podcast on all the platforms. But huge show. Thomas, tariffs are starting to bite. Prices have exploded on Shien.com with some products now surging up over $1. And are we entering the golden age of, well, gold? Gold is surging. And new research suggests that men apologize in the workplace more than women. No, my apologies. That's women more than men. Interesting. But first, by the time you hear this, we will have voted in the federal election. Thomas, it's Thursday before the election. Have you voted yet?
Oh, no, I haven't. No. Saving up for a sausage.
Go get your freedom sausage. Before we get into this, I still have a bugbear about this whole election day vote thing. That's Saturday. Like, early voting's open. It's been open for 2 weeks. Like, it's a no-brainer for me. The early voting station is closer to my house than the actual voting station.
Oh, right. Yeah,
so right. I voted like a week ago.
Yeah. Well, pre-polling numbers are surging around the world. I think Canada's election, they had like 25% pre-poll. So
I don't know why you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know why we still have to do this. Why we still have this system where you've got to go and grab a pencil, scribble on some paper. I could get like a home loan for $2 million online. I could get my minutes. 15-minute approval for a $2 million home loan online. But if I want to cast my vote, I've got to walk down and put a bit of paper in a cardboard box after I scribble on it with a bit of pencil. Like, so no wonder they hold these things at schools. They're the only ones with the supplies to
pencils. Yeah.
And secure enough internet.
I'm still amazed you can just rock up and go like, yeah, this is my name. What's your address? This is my address.
Yeah, no ID.
No ID. No Slack. Okay. Draw a line through your name.
Have you voted before? No, I haven't.
Yeah.
And there's all this criteria to vote early. Like, you have to be like, you have to have a reason, right? Or you have to be, you have to have a reason. And there's all these reasons that you need to have, but they can't ask you what they are. Okay. So it just boils down to, are you eligible to vote early? And you just go, yeah, I am. Because it doesn't matter why. I just say yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. It's like saving your Christmas shopping until like Christmas Eve. Why would you do that? You could just go and just order it online. Anyway, the federal election would have happened, Thomas.
Yeah. So where we stand now, looks like Labor is probably going to get in, maybe with a minority government. What I think is interesting is just how quickly this has turned around. Like, even if Dutton wins, it's going to be by a very slim margin. But only 6 to 8 weeks ago, he was looking like romping it in. And
then he started campaigning.
Yeah.
then he held a campaign launch and started talking to people, and everyone went, "Ooh, maybe Dutz is not for us."
Yeah, but like back in March 7, this is not that long ago, 7 weeks or so, his net approval rating was -4. Leaders tend to have a negative net approval rating, is -4. Now it's down to -18. Like, it's completely collapsed. But he's done nothing to deserve that I can see. And I think it's entirely a Trump effect.
Right.
And you saw this in Canada. So Canada had an election this week. The Liberal Party, which is not like our Liberal Party, is more like our Labor Party. They'd been in power for 10 years, probably about the same time, about 8 to 10 weeks ago. Their primary vote had collapsed to 18%, like the lowest on record. Down from like normally around the 40s. It completely collapsed. And the Conservative Party was looking like they were going to win it in a landslide. But then Trump came on and said, I'm going to annex Canada and call it the 51st state.
Yeah.
And suddenly everyone's like, well, that's the thing, the Conservative leader, Pierre someone, he had sort of like
solid research.
Yeah. Pierre Papagoose.
Well, we're on a first name basis. I would just call him Pierre. Or mate.
Mate.
Old mate Pierre. Yeah.
Pierre, yeah. But like Dutton, in the early days of Trump's victory, when Trump had the aura of a champion and everyone's like, yep, I'm all about that too. He launched his campaign slogan, Canada First, mimicking America First. And that was good for a time until Trump sort of unleashed the crazy and everyone started to get a bit freaked about it. And then the Conservative vote collapsed. And I think Dutton's had the exact same thing. Like, nothing's changed in Australian politics, but Dutton's approval rating completely collapsed just on the back of people going like, I don't want more of this Trump crazy. And it feels like Dutton's going to bring more of the Trump crazy. So I'm going to lean against that.
I loved hearing in America that he's just ticked over his first 100 days and his popularity is the second worst ever in American history, just behind himself in his first term.
Yeah. Those polls are fake.
But according to Trump, of course, it's the best 100 days anyone's ever had.
100 days of greatness was the campaign slogan. The other thing is, we want to pull out from this is there was a bit of talk about young men tilting conservative, following a sort of a global trend. And there was the Australian elections study, which we've got a chart here, which just show there's been quite a sharp tilt back towards conservative people amongst young men, which is interesting. But also it sort of only takes us back to where young men were in 2015. Between 2015 and 2020, young men tilted progressive, but now have tilted right back. So it's kind of interesting why they tilted progressive between 2015 and 2020. Yeah. And then why they've tilted back.
Do we know why?
I mean, a lot of people will tell some stories about it. And I don't know that we know. And like, there's a bit of a narrative about the manosphere with the Joe Rogans and these kind of characters are like pulling men towards the conservative end of the spectrum. But I'm just not sure how true that is. Like, I think it's just like we're unwinding the progressive tilt that we saw in the previous 5 years.
Right.
So, I don't know if it's really a Joe Rogan effect as much as it is something else. I'm not sure.
Having history as a young man once, I think definitely fickle, like easily swayed. If we're just talking about tilts, if that's our measure of tilting one way or another, with like a free burger. Get me over the line, sign a petition or something.
Yeah, I mean, you'd vote for Trump back then just because he was funnier.
Oh, absolutely. Just let's do this and see what happens.
Yeah.
All right, Thomas, we're going to talk about tariffs. And look, good luck if you're planning on cleaning your air conditioner vents or shredding some meat, because prices on Shien through the roof. Shien.com, of course, being the Chinese marketplace where you can buy just about anything for usually, it used to be not very much, but not so anymore. Prices have gone gangbusters.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is what we expect. This is sort of like some of the first hard data we're seeing on this. Tariffs are designed to increase the price of foreign competitors.
Yeah.
I don't know that there is a domestic toothbrush manufacturing industry in America, but
Or ultra-fine blackhead removal tweezers. Those people in tweezer belt of America are... Tweezer belt USA are really feeling the pinch.
America once had a proud tweezer manufacturing sector.
Make tweezers great again.
Yeah. Well, ultrafine blackhead tweezer remover tweezers, they're up 168%.
It's criminal.
Yeah. And so there's just a table here of some big increases in some items.
Yeah.
Like a lot of them doubling. Thick kitchen cleaning towels are up almost 400%. So, I mean, they're still ridiculous. We're talking about going from $1.30 to $6.10. So it's still still crazy cheap.
Yeah.
Like, no, there's no cleaning towel manufacturing sector in the US that's now looking at that like, oh, I was out of the game at $1.20, but now we're at $6.10. I reckon I'm profitable.
Yeah, if you go into any homewares store and buy a tea towel, like you're paying more than $6, surely, even in Australia right now. You can't buy it.
No. Like the prices are like, just crazy. There's no way. I like this is what I think. Like even with what are we looking at? 145% tariffs on China at the moment. Even that is not going to be enough, I don't think, to energize basic manufacturing. Like maybe it helps with your sophisticated manufacturing, with your chips and your iPhones and things, but toothbrushes and tweezers.
Well, so are these manufacturers of thick kitchen cleaning towels, are they price gouging? I mean, they're up. Like, how do they justify 377%? How does the guy making the blinds and air conditioning Gap brush? How does he justify 219% increase?
Yeah, it's true, isn't it?
I think we need an inquiry here. We need the ACCC.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are under that 145. So Sweet Mint Matte Pearl Shimmering Eyeshadow Stick.
Well,
that's up 141%. So, they're undercutting. Like that's
they're passing on the savings. Yeah. I mean, there's a nice irony here, I think, which is Trump's always been, from what I can tell, kind of anti-environment. Climate change is a hoax. We don't really need to look after the planet.
Drill, baby, drill.
Yeah, drill, baby, drill. And one of the big sort of problems we've got in the world at the moment is plastic waste, is fast fashion, and all of these ridiculously cheap products that we can buy online from Shien and Temu and other places. And so if all of a sudden demand drops for fast fashion and for single-use plastics that just get thrown out, then he might actually be the hero that the climate change movement was looking for.
Yeah. I mean, this is right. Like there's been for a long time there's been an argument in progressive economics that the current price of a lot of goods is artificial because it's artificially low because we're doing things like not paying people a living wage in parts of Asia. We're not monitoring pollution or chemical use or all these sorts of things. But with offshoring industry, we've released industry from your pollution controls and labor standards and all these sorts of things, which are actually good things. And so the reason they're cheap is because we're doing things that from a global perspective aren't that great. And so it's kind of good to be unwinding it. That's the argument. Yeah. So it's interesting now that, progressives are getting behind becoming we want cheap stuff movement, which is like, that's not really a great intellectual position in my mind.
Yeah. So what does this do in the US? I mean, this is the symptom of the problem, I guess, which is prices have gone up. So consumer sentiment, inflation, etc. Where are we at now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we're at an interesting stage. Like this is early stage. So this is because these prices would still be from buying items that are located in China. But I think a lot of trade coming out of China is shutting down. And so we've also seen that in the container ship count, the number of container ships leaving China for the US, that's completely tanked.
Right.
To some of the lowest levels, like to holiday-like levels, and probably heading further south.
When you say holiday-like levels, what do you mean? Like Christmas holidays?
Lunar New Year in China. They kind of cut back on shipping.
I was thinking Christmas holidays. Surely that's boom time for containers coming out of China. But okay, gotcha.
No, the Chinese New Year. So it's lower than that.
Yeah.
So, and given it takes 2 months for containers to arrive, people are sort of saying like, you're not going to see the real effect in terms of empty shelves for another 2 months, but it's coming.
Right.
And it's sort of the interesting sort of way you sort of like characterize this bet. So China so far is standing strong, and they've slapped 125% tariff on US things. So you've got 145 versus 125, some like crazy numbers. But China seems to be betting that their population can endure lost export revenue for longer than the American population can endure empty shelves and less stuff.
Yeah.
And I think politically that's probably true, that the Chinese population, there's not it's a one-party state, so you don't have outlets for angst and anger. But in America, I feel like once people can't buy toilet paper or something, then you're going to have a real angry, armed mob.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah.
So,
I mean, when you can't get your collagen anti-cracking lip balm, like there'll be riots. Blood on the streets.
Which is why I think China's not backing down. They're like, oh yeah, well let's see how you go. Let's see how you go without our stuff. Because I don't know.
Just look at us with our soft, supple lips. Look at my mouth closely when I say no lip balm for you. All right, why don't we take a break here, grab a word from this week's sponsor. We'll be back with more CVE right after this. Welcome back here on Comedian versus Economist. Don't forget you'll find us on YouTube as well now, where you can see us talking. You can see our soft, supple lips, as well as the charts all in one place. But Thomas, gold for Australia and the rest of the world, it would seem. What's going on with the gold price?
Oh, it's still rocketing northwards. Yeah, we touched $3,400 an ounce a couple of a week or so ago. Yeah, but just bumping along. So like, all through 2024, analysts were saying like, oh, maybe we could get to $3,000 an ounce sometime. Like that was a sort of that was the key target. That now analysts are talking about $4,000 an ounce.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah,
Go
just
long
sort of
gold.
Go. Yeah.
Not financial advice.
No, just friendly advice.
Say it's financial advice without saying it's financial advice.
Just friendly advice.
Yeah. Right.
Or just central bank monetary policy advice.
Yeah.
Because that's the key thing. So I think there's a lot of nervousness around treasuries, US treasuries, and where that's going, just because there's just so much uncertainty in the US at the moment. Potentially Trump's just going to fire Jerome Powell and install his own toady.
Yeah.
That changes the outlook for treasuries substantially.
He's backed away from that now a bit though, hasn't he? He's kind of
Markets didn't like that talk. I mean, he called him a loser at some point on Truth Social or whatever. Calling the central bank governor a loser.
Yeah.
But then he's backed away and markets forced him into it. Like saying like, are you really going to fire the Fed chair? And then he had to say, like, actually, well, no, I'm not. Because people were saying like, if you're going to fire the Fed chair, it's all, like we talked about this in the last show before the break.
Yeah.
Like then it's really on for young and old if he does that. Yeah, so he was forced to back away from that. He still might, but he's had to talk that game.
Yeah.
but the idea is that, US treasuries were seen as like some of your most stable financial reserves, particularly your foreign reserves held by central banks around the world. Central banks are now looking at that going like, ooh, maybe not. Maybe we need to get away from treasuries. And gold is the alternative they seem to be going for. And so we see, got a couple of charts here. There's, central banks have become big buyers of gold, and particularly China. China's been a particularly aggressive buyer of gold in the past year or so.
Is that because of the particularly tense relationship now between China and the US? Like they're in particular, China's kind of going, we don't want US treasuries because the relationship's soured a bit.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that and the price is volatile. It is potentially volatile.
Right.
So it's like, the price of treasuries was normally pretty predictable and pretty stable. Yeah. And so it makes a good reserve because you're backing your financial system with a instrument that's pretty stable. That's now looking a bit shaky. And particularly, I think in China, it creates a tension in China. Like if you're trying to leverage economic pressure on the US, but you're relying on their treasuries for the stability of your financial system, that limits your options a bit. Yeah. And so I think they're trying to shift away from that.
And Bitcoin doesn't have a role to play here?
No, Bitcoin's useless. I can't imagine what you use Bitcoin for.
What about Clive coin, Thomas? Like Clive Palmer's got his own coin. Maybe China could go to Clive coin as its Federal Reserve.
Right. I don't know. Not yet. Like it's not. Central banks aren't at the point of using Bitcoin as a reserve. I mean, Bitcoin hasn't demonstrated its stability. We're talking about sort of some big increases in the gold price, but we're talking about 10 to 20%. We're not talking about doubling in a year and then collapsing 20%. Yeah. So Bitcoin's price isn't stable enough to really function as a reserve for anyone with any sort of reasonable risk tolerance. Yeah, it's not there yet.
Okay, and just quickly, where are we at then with rates, interest rates?
Yeah, well, the global, got a chart here saying the global trend is still down. Central banks around the world are still cutting rates. That's sort of where we are in the cycle. I think it's probably going to accelerate. We've got a meeting coming up here, May 19, 20. And, there's a bit of talk about whether we'll get 50.
Getting the crew together. Beautiful part of the world. Yeah. Why not have a central bank meeting just on the Tweed?
Yeah. Michelle Bullock and I are going to get a houseboat.
Get a barbecue boats. Get around. Cook up.
We'll look at a few charts on our phones. Right. Well, but we're talking about like 50 basis point cut in Australia. I don't think that's going to happen, but people are starting to talk about it. Yeah. And I think just because like the IMF came out this week and ratcheted back their outlook for global growth forecast for this year and next based on all the trade tensions. And so the growth outlook is falling quite sharply. Yeah. And so rates were heading down and now look like they're going to fall quicker than we had anticipated, only a couple of months ago.
Right. Oh, well, that'll be good.
Yeah.
A little bit extra, little bit of financial relief, as the politicians would like to call it. All right, Thomas, finally on the show, got some new research about the men and the women. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, well, this is an interesting study. So it was reported in The Economist magazine, comes out of Stanford University. And basically they wanted to look at this idea of, are women more apologetic in the workplace than men? Right. And so the way they measured that is they gave, I think like 700 odd participants in the study, gave them all a standardized test of 10 questions and said that this was going to determine whether they would get a promotion or not. They then completed the test, but then everyone got the chance to email the person reviewing the test to write them a message to help make the case or help sway the decision to get them a promotion.
Right.
they took all of those responses and then rated them on a scale from 0 to 100 of how apologetic they were.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly how they measured that. I think,
Sorry for writing cat. I meant to write dog. Like, I don't know.
yeah.
This feels dodgy.
Well, I mean, there's probably research that's, this is built on previous research.
Yeah.
I would guess if it's Stanford University, but it's a bit of
Well,
a
there must have been
subjective
some
call.
catalyst for it, right? Like, it wasn't just someone sitting around going, you know what? I reckon women apologize more at work than men. We should do a study. There must have been some data already that some question they're trying to answer.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's it. I think like there's a perception which I've seen played out a few times is that there's a confidence gap in employment situations where men tend to be overconfident and overrate their abilities, and where women tend to understate their abilities and their confidence. And this is often cited as one of the reasons why there's a pay gap. Is men are better at advocating for themselves and talking themselves up and arguing for a higher wage, and women, for whatever reason, perhaps social conditioning, are less able to sort of talk themselves up.
Right. Okay. And so that came out in the data. And even though the data suggested that 8 out of 10 of the questions were right anyway, but 50% were still apologizing.
Well, yeah. So the chart we're looking at here is like the number of questions they answered correctly, and then how apologetic the follow-up emails were based on how many answers they got right or wrong. So for men and women, once you got between 1 and 5 questions right out of 10, the apology level is about the same.
Yeah.
Where it gets interesting, though, is when men and women are getting it right. So when men get 8 questions right out of 10, their apology score drops below 20 out of 100. But for women, even when they're getting 8 out of 10 questions right, their apology score is about 50.
Yeah, right.
So the gap, it's interesting that but below 5, they're about the same, but above 5, there doesn't change. And for women, the apology standard doesn't really seem to shift that much with getting questions right. Whereas for men, the more they get right and the more confident they are they got the questions right, the apology scale drops quite sharply.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So what do we do with this?
I mean, it's interesting to think about why this is. Like, one, whether women are just naturally more apologetic and tend to just apologize even when there's no need for them to apologize.
I feel like I apologize a lot at home. That's probably usually warranted because of the result of a lack of action.
Yeah, I mean, you're usually getting about 2 or 3 questions right out of 10.
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't follow a really high success rate on questions asked and answered. It's usually apologies for not getting back to you on the question. Right. Yeah. But in the workplace, it's a different story.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's either that. So it might be that, women are just naturally more apologetic. I mean, socially conditioned to be more apologetic. It may also be that we have a culture that expects women to be apologetic. Do you know what I mean? So it's like women might feel to not be apologetic would be seen as being, a bit arrogant or something, whereas men don't feel that such a qualm.
Right. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's just as kind of almost a manners thing, right? Like maybe women just generally have better manners than men.
Possibly true.
Maybe we just need more like unisex toilets in the workplace. There'll be a lot of men apologizing then. Just like, whoa, sorry.
You need to give that one a moment.
My bad. Give that a minute. Right, let's leave it there. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed the show. It's nice to be back. I'd love it if you left a rating and a review wherever you're listening to this podcast. It helps us out a lot. So that'd be great.
And
but
sorry about today's episode, everyone. Sorry.
and future episodes. I can confidently add that. That is it for us for now. Until next time on Comedian versus Economist, it is bye for now.
Comedian vs. Economist is a product of Equity Mates Media. All information in this podcast is for education and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional finance, legal, or tax advice. The hosts of Comedian vs. Economist are not financial professionals and are not aware of your personal financial circumstances. Before making any financial decisions, you should read the product disclosure statement and, if necessary, consult a licensed financial professional. Do not take financial advice from a podcast. For more information, head to the disclaimer page on the Equity Mates website where you can find ASIC resources and find a registered financial professional near you. In the spirit of reconciliation, Equity Mates Media and the hosts of Comedian vs. Economist acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today.